When I got the email about being assigned a college mentor, I almost deleted it. I had just moved into my dorm 2 days before, still had half my stuff in boxes, and hadn't even figured out where the dining hall was. Mentors were for people who got lost on their way to class or needed help picking electives. I didn't think I was that guy. But then I saw the line in bold. Your assigned mentor is Aaron Palmer Jr., psychology major, and for some reason, I hesitated. Maybe it was the fact that everything felt a little too big lately. Classes, the campus, my own expectations. Maybe I just didn't want to eat another meal alone. Whatever the reason, I emailed him back. He replied 10 minutes later. Hey Ryan, I'm free Tuesday around 4. Meet at the Student Union Cafe. Look for a black hoodie and headphones. Aaron cool, efficient, kind of mysterious. I liked it. So Tuesday came, and I showed up, half expecting some overly enthusiastic RA type with a clipboard and a laminated packet about getting involved on campus. What I got instead was a guy hunched over a laptop, earbuds in, tapping one leg to a beat I couldn't hear. Black hoodie, headphones. Just like he said. He didn't notice me at first. I hovered awkwardly for a second before clearing my throat. He looked up. His eyes were this kind of steel gray that caught me off guard, not because of the color exactly, but the way they studied me. Quick, sharp, like he was already trying to figure me out. Then he pulled one earbud out and gave me a nod. Ryan? I nodded, sitting down across from him. Yeah. You must be Aaron. He smirked a little and pushed his laptop aside. Let's get the boring intro stuff out of the way. You from around here? I told him I was from Sacramento. He said he grew up in San Diego. We went through the motions. Major, hometown, why I picked this school, what I was worried about. But the thing that struck me wasn't the questions. It was how relaxed he was. There was none of that forced, upbeat energy I expected. He was quiet, calm, borderline blunt, but not in a mean way. Just honest. And then there was the way he looked at me. Not in a flirty way, not really, but in a way that made me feel like I was being seen. Not scanned, not sized up. Seen. Your voice drops when you talk about your major, he said suddenly, after I told him I was thinking of studying English. What? You got louder when you talked about your high school newspaper. Then quieter when you mentioned the major. Like you're not sure you're supposed to be excited about it. I blinked. You psychoanalyzing me already? He smiled slightly. Occupational hazard. We talked for almost an hour, about nothing and everything. He didn't act like he had some checklist to get through. He just asked questions, real ones, and actually listened. He didn't give me advice unless I asked for it. He didn't pretend to know all the answers. And when I stood up to leave, I didn't want to. Same time next week? He asked, already putting his headphones back in. Yeah, I said, probably too quickly. Definitely. He gave me a small nod, and that was it. Back to his laptop, back to his music. But as I walked out of the cafe, my stomach did this strange little flip, because I'd walked in expecting to meet a tutor, a babysitter, a checklist with legs, and I'd met Aaron instead. And Aaron was nothing like I expected. By the next week, I had played the whole cafe conversation with Aaron in my head at least a dozen times. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because something quiet had happened. Something subtle and weirdly magnetic. I tried not to read into it. He was older, confident. Probably one of those guys everyone liked without trying. And me? I was just another freshman, wide-eyed and lost and trying not to look like it. Still, when Tuesday rolled around, I was 15 minutes early. Aaron was already there. Same spot, same hoodie, earbuds in, but this time when he saw me, he smiled a little. Not just a polite smile either. Something softer, like he was actually glad to see me. That one small look made my stomach clench in a way I didn't want to acknowledge. He pulled out one earbud. You're early. So are you. He raised an eyebrow. Touché. We sat. I got a hot tea. He got a smoothie, which somehow made him seem even harder to read. Big guy in a hoodie drinking something bright pink from a straw. It didn't fit, but it worked. This time the conversation drifted more. Less about school. More about life. I told him about my roommate who never left the room, and smelled like axe and weed. He laughed and said his freshman roommate used to cry in the shower with the water running so no one would hear. "You get used to weird," he said, sipping his smoothie, "or you move out." "You ever have to deal with homesickness?" I asked before I could stop myself. His face went still for a second. Then he looked at me. "Yeah, but not in the way people usually mean." I didn't push, and he didn't explain. But I could tell something about the question hit close. He looked away, out the window, like there was something on the other side of the glass he wasn't sure he wanted to remember. After a pause, he asked, "You dating anyone?" The question was casual. Too casual. I shrugged. "Not really. Dated a girl for a while in high school. Didn't stick." His eyes flicked up to meet mine, but he didn't say anything. Just nodded slowly. "You?" Aaron's lips twitched, here and there. "Guys?" He raised an eyebrow. "You ask all your mentors that?" I flushed. "Sorry. That was—" He cut me off with a quiet laugh. "Relax. I'm just messing with you." He didn't answer the question, but he didn't need to. After that, things got easier. The conversation flowed in that effortless way it only does when you stop worrying about saying the right thing. He asked about what I was writing. Turned out he actually remembered from last week, and I told him about a short story I was working on for class. He leaned in as I described the plot, his elbow on the table, fingers to his mouth. His eyes didn't leave mine. And I swear, for just a second, everything else in the room disappeared. The hum of the espresso machine, the chatter of students, even my nerves, all gone. "Send it to me when it's done," he said when I finished explaining. "You want to read it?" He shrugged. "Yeah, I like hearing how people think." I nodded, trying not to show how much that meant. By the time I left, the sky had gone dusky gray, and I realized we'd been talking for nearly 2 hours. He didn't even check his phone once. "Same time next week?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Aaron hesitated just a second longer than usual. Then he nodded. "Yeah," he said. "Looking forward to it." The third time we met, something was different. Not on the surface. Same café, same table, same Aaron in a hoodie, but there was this energy in the air. Like we were circling something we hadn't named yet, something neither of us wanted to say out loud. This time, I got there first. I was pretending to read when I saw him walk in, earbuds still in, tapping the side of his phone like he was finishing a message. When he spotted me, he smiled. Subtle, warm, like a private joke only we knew. "Look at you," he said, dropping into the seat across from me, all punctual and studious. I smirked. Trying to impress my mentor. He raised an eyebrow. "Oh, how's that going?" "Undecided," I said, sipping my coffee. "The guy's a tough read." That made him laugh. He leaned back, arms crossed. "Maybe he's just trying not to get too involved." I looked at him, and the way he said it, it wasn't sarcastic. It almost sounded defensive. "Too involved in what?" Aaron looked away for a second, then back at me. "You ever notice how when people show you who they are too fast, it's usually because they're hiding something else?" I blinked. "That's weirdly specific." He shrugged. "Psych major." I nodded slowly, letting that settle. "Are you doing that now?" I asked quietly. There was a pause. Not long, but enough. Then he said, "Maybe." That answer shouldn't have made my pulse spike, but it did. He changed the subject, asked about my classes, how I was doing in chem, whether I'd made any friends yet. But I couldn't stop thinking about the moment before, that maybe. It played on a loop in my head. After an hour, he stood up and stretched, hoodie riding up slightly to show a sliver of skin above his jeans. I looked away too late. He noticed. He didn't say anything, but I saw the flicker of a smile. "Want to walk?" he asked, grabbing his drink. I blinked. "Like with you?" "No, with the barista." He deadpanned. "Yes, with me." I grabbed my jacket and followed him out. We didn't talk much as we walked, just fell into step beside each other, our sneakers hitting pavement in sync. The campus was quieter than usual, dusk settling in, that hour when everything feels a little softer around the edges. At one point, our arms brushed. Neither of us moved away. We ended up at the bridge that overlooked the little creek that ran through the center of campus. He leaned on the railing, staring down at the water. "You know," he said, "when I signed up for this mentor thing, I figured I'd get paired with some kid who just wanted resume advice and GPA tips." "Sorry to disappoint," I said, nudging him. He didn't smile this time, just kept staring at the water. "You didn't," he said. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was heavy, charged, like we were both waiting for something to give. "I'm not really good at this," Aaron said finally. "At what?" He looked over at me, really looked, and his voice was quieter when he answered. "Being careful." There it was again. The thing we weren't saying. I felt something in my chest tighten, then loosen. "You don't have to be," I said, surprising myself. He studied me for a long beat. Then he pushed off the railing. "Let's get you back before I say something I'm not supposed to." That should have made me nervous. It didn't. It made me curious. And maybe a little reckless. I didn't know what he meant by "say something I'm not supposed to," but the words stuck with me. The way he looked at me when he said it. The weight behind them. Like he was holding something back. Not just attraction, but hesitation, restraint. The walk back was quiet, but not in a bad way. We didn't speak much. Our shoulders bumped once or twice. I let mine linger the last time. When we got to the edge of the freshman dorms, he stopped. "This is you, right?" "Yeah," I said, turning to face him. "Thanks for walking me." He nodded once, but didn't move. The way his eyes dropped to my mouth for a split second. "Yeah, I saw it." "I'm around if you need anything," he said, but it came out softer than usual. "I know." He hesitated, like he might say more. Then he gave a quick smile, stepped back, and turned to leave. I watched him go. I didn't sleep much that night. We didn't meet at the cafe the next week. Aaron texted instead. "Can't do the cafe today. Want to meet somewhere else?" I stared at the message for way too long before typing back. "Sure. Where?" he replied. "My place? It's off campus. Chill. Nothing weird. Just figured we could skip the crowd. Nothing weird." The fact that he added that made it feel exactly the opposite. Still, I said yes. Aaron lived in a small apartment above a thrift store, about a 10-minute walk from campus. When I got there, he buzzed me up and the door clicked open. It smelled like cedar and old books and laundry. He was barefoot, wearing joggers and a black t-shirt, his hair a little messier than usual. "Hey," he said, stepping aside. "Hey." He closed the door behind me, and suddenly it was very, very quiet. "Drink?" he asked, heading to the kitchen. Sure." He poured 2 glasses of iced tea, handed me one, then nodded toward the couch. I sat, trying to look casual, trying not to wonder if I was reading too much into this, or not enough. His place was clean, but lived in. Plants on the windowsill. A bookshelf that looked like it actually got used. A record player in the corner with a stack of albums beside it. "I like your place," I said, trying to break the weird silence. He looked at me for a moment, then sat down on the other end of the couch. "Thanks." More silence. Then, finally, he sighed. "Can I ask you something?" "Yeah, of course." He turned his body slightly toward me, one leg pulled up onto the couch. "You know this whole mentorship thing?" he asked. I nodded. "I don't think I'm supposed to want to know you like this." I blinked. "Like what?" He didn't answer right away. "I've had mentees before, but with you, it's different. Feels less like I'm helping some freshmen find the dining hall and more like I'm—" He stopped. "More like you're what?" I asked, my voice lower now. He looked at me, and the intensity in his eyes nearly stopped my heart. "More like I'm waiting to see if you feel it too." I swallowed hard. "I do," I said. And I meant it. Aaron looked at me like he wasn't sure he believed me. Then he set his glass down and leaned in, elbows on his knees, hands clasped together. "This isn't how it's supposed to go. You're younger. New. I'm supposed to be, like, responsible or whatever." "Are you?" He let out a quiet laugh, and for a second it broke the tension. "No," he said. "Definitely not." We both sat there, the air thick, with something unspoken and huge. I wasn't sure what would happen next. I just knew I didn't want to leave. "Ryan," he said, voice barely above a whisper, "if you stay, you need to know I'm not good at pretending. Then don't pretend." He looked at me for a long, long time. Then he reached across the space between us, his fingers brushing lightly against my knee. Not demanding, not assuming, just asking. I didn't pull away. His hand stayed there, barely touching my knee, the gentlest pressure. But it felt like a live wire. Neither of us moved at first. The quiet between us was its own kind of noise. Then, slowly, Aaron leaned back. Not away, just enough to give me space. "I don't want to mess with your head," he said, eyes on mine. "This isn't a game to me." I nodded, my voice caught somewhere between my throat and my chest. "It's not a game to me either." That answer seemed to land somewhere deep in him. His jaw flexed a little, like he was working through something. Then he leaned back in, this time closer. His hand slid a little higher, just resting there. Still light, still waiting. "I keep thinking I should stop," he said quietly. "Why?" "Because this isn't what I signed up for. But every time we meet, I want to see you again, more than I should." I exhaled slowly. "You think I haven't noticed that?" His lips curved, barely. "I wasn't sure." "You weren't hiding it very well." He chuckled under his breath, then looked down. I watched his eyelashes lower, his fingers twitch against my leg like he was holding himself back. "I haven't dated anyone seriously in over a year," he said. "I think part of me just didn't trust myself to care again. But then you showed up, and now I think about you too much." It felt impossible that someone like him, older, composed, sharp, was sitting here admitting that to someone like me. I wasn't used to being wanted like this. Not quietly. Not with intention. I swallowed. "I think about you too." He finally looked up, and the way he met my gaze, it wasn't hesitant anymore. It was clear. Solid. "You sure?" I nodded. He shifted closer on the couch. Our knees touched fully now. His hand found mine, not a grab, just a slow press. His fingers sliding between mine like he was trying to memorize the shape. Everything in my chest went still. "Is this okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "It's more than okay." And then he kissed me. It wasn't rushed or dramatic, no sharp gasps or clumsy collisions. Just his mouth on mine. Warm, steady, like we were meant to land there eventually. His hand slid to the side of my face, thumb brushing my cheek, and I felt myself lean in without thinking. It wasn't fireworks, it was gravity. When he pulled back, he rested his forehead against mine for a second, exhaling slowly. His breath smelled faintly of mint and iced tea. "You still good?" I nodded, unable to speak. We sat like that for a while, hands laced, knees touching, his thumb tracing small patterns on the back of mine. And for the first time in weeks, I wasn't overthinking anything. I was just there, with him, exactly where I wanted to be. I didn't sleep at Aaron's that night, not because I didn't want to. God, I wanted to. But something in his voice, just after that kiss, had said, "Let's not rush this." And I respected that. We stayed on the couch for a long time after, legs tangled, his arm resting behind me as I leaned into his chest. No pressure, no unspoken expectations, just warmth. Eventually, I stood to leave, and he walked me to the door. "Next week?" I asked, keeping it light even though it suddenly felt like a stupid question. He smiled. "Sooner than that, I hope." He kissed me again before I left. Slower this time, more certain. And when I walked back across campus that night, everything looked different. Same buildings, same flickering street lamps. But something had shifted in me. It wasn't a fantasy anymore. It was happening. The next few days were a blur. I went to class. I studied. I told myself not to read into every text from him, not to obsess over how long it took him to reply, not to replay that kiss in my head every time I closed my eyes. I failed at all of that. He texted me midweek. "Busy Thursday night? I could cook. Or try to. Could be dangerous. Dangerous is fine. I like danger." I sent back. "Good. 7, okay?" I told myself not to be nervous. I was very nervous. His apartment smelled like garlic, and something slightly burned when I arrived. He opened the door with a sheepish look. I may have lied about knowing how to cook, I laughed. You weren't kidding about the danger part. He waved me in, and I dropped my bag by the couch. He was barefoot again, wearing black joggers and a white tee that clung a little more than necessary. I tried not to stare. He handed me a glass of wine, then leaned against the counter while I sat at the small dining table. This feel weird to you? He asked after a few quiet minutes. This? He gestured between us. Us? You're still technically my mentee? I tilted my head. Yeah, but it's not like I'm asking you to edit my essays while we make out. He choked on his wine. Jesus, Ryan. I'm just saying, I grinned. We're adults, and if this is a conflict of interest, well, I'm interested. He set his glass down and walked toward me, slow, deliberate. He rested his hands on the back of my chair and leaned forward, his face inches from mine. You're too clever for your own good. Maybe, I said, voice low. But you like that. He didn't answer. He kissed me again, longer this time. This kiss was different, hungrier. His hand slid to the side of my neck, thumb brushing the hollow of my throat. I could feel the tension in his arms, the way he was holding himself just barely in check. When he pulled away, his breath was shallow. I want this, he said, but I need to be careful. Not because of school or the mentorship thing, because you're not just a hookup to me. I felt that line deep in my chest. I know, I said. You're not that to me either. He nodded once, like that was what he needed to hear. Then he leaned his forehead against mine and exhaled slowly. Dinner's probably ruined. I don't care. I was going to make pasta. Still don't care. He laughed quietly, and the sound of it made something flutter in me. We ended up ordering pizza. And later, lying on his couch with our legs tangled in the empty pizza box on the floor, I realized I hadn't thought about school or homework or even real life for the last few hours. I'd just been here with him, and nothing had ever felt more right. After that night, everything changed between us, but not in a way that anyone else would notice. To the outside world, Aaron was still my college mentor. The guy I'd meet once a week, maybe grab a coffee with, probably give some academic advice. But to me, he was now the person I couldn't wait to be alone with. We never talked about labels, never had the conversation, but something quiet had settled between us, something mutual, comfortable, intimate in ways I hadn't expected. He still asked about my classes, but now he also knew what I ate for breakfast. I knew how he liked his coffee and which podcast he listened to when he ran. He learned I bit my lip when I was nervous. I found out he always fell asleep with one arm tucked under the pillow. None of that was part of the mentor-mentee handbook. But it became our normal. One night, a few weeks later, I got a text from Aaron out of nowhere. You up? It was just after midnight. I'd been half asleep, scrolling aimlessly. I replied, yeah. Everything okay? He didn't respond right away. Then, can I come over? My pulse kicked up, not because I didn't want him to, but because he'd never asked before. Yeah. Doors unlocked. 10 minutes later, I heard the quiet knock of his knuckles against the frame before the door creaked open. He stepped inside, his hoodie damp from the fog, hair pushed back like he'd been running his hands through it. Hey, he said, voice low. Hey. He stood there for a second like he wasn't sure what to say. Then he dropped his bag and came straight to the edge of my bed, sitting down with a heavy exhale. You okay? I asked, sitting up. He didn't answer right away. Then, rough night. Couldn't sleep. I hesitated. Do you want to talk about it? He shook his head, then looked at me. His eyes were tired, but soft. No, just didn't want to be alone. That sentence did something to me, something deep and unexpected. Without thinking, I pulled the covers back. Then don't be. He kicked off his shoes and slid in beside me. I shifted to make room, but we both knew there wouldn't be much space. He curled toward me, one arm draping loosely across my middle, forehead brushing my shoulder. We didn't say anything else. He just held on, and I let him. In the morning, I woke up to find him still there, face relaxed, breath slow, one hand resting lightly against my chest, like he didn't want to lose contact. He stirred a little when I moved, eyes blinking open. Morning, he mumbled, voice rough. Morning! For a second, we just lay there, staring at each other in the hazy gray of early light. "I should probably go before your roommate wakes up," he said, though he made no move to get up. "You're fine," I said. He looked at me, and I saw it again. That flicker of worry behind his eyes. The part of him that still wasn't sure what this was, or what it was supposed to be. "What's going on in your head?" I asked gently. He hesitated. "I think I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of screwing this up." I nodded. "Yeah, me too." He let out a breath, then leaned in, pressing his lips to mine. It was slow, soft, the kind of kiss that didn't ask for anything, except the moment itself. When he pulled back, he rested his forehead against mine. "We're not screwing it up," I whispered. "Not yet," he said, smiling against my skin. That morning, Aaron left my room just before the sun came fully up. My roommate never knew he was there. No one did. And maybe that should have made it feel secretive or wrong. But all I felt was closer to him. Like the line between mentor and more had already been crossed a long time ago. We just hadn't admitted it out loud yet. It was a few weeks later when everything finally came to a head. The semester was hitting that hectic midpoint. Papers piling up, midterms looming, the whole campus buzzing with sleep-deprived panic. Aaron and I had fallen into this strange, quiet rhythm, checking in by text during the day, spending evenings curled up on his couch, sharing late-night takeout and stolen kisses. It wasn't official, but it was real. At least, it felt that way to me. So when the university sent out an automated email reminding students that mentor/mentee assignments would quote, transition soon, my stomach dropped. The program wasn't meant to last the whole year, just the first semester, which meant, officially, Aaron and I were about to be nothing. No title, no excuse, no reason to keep seeing each other, except the only reason that mattered. I didn't bring it up right away. I wasn't sure how. But one night, as we sat on his floor eating takeout noodles from cardboard boxes, he glanced over at me and said, "So you get that email too?" I nodded. "Yeah." He twirled a chopstick between his fingers, his jaw tight. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" he asked. "That I don't want this to end?" I said before I could stop myself. Aaron looked at me. Then he set his food aside, leaned back against the wall, and exhaled slowly. "This started as something else. I was supposed to help you navigate freshman year, show you where the dining hall was, give you course advice." I gave a half smile. "You were a little more useful than that. But I didn't expect this," he said. "I didn't expect you." His voice cracked a little on that last word, and suddenly I wasn't sitting across from a guy who had it all together. I was seeing the version of Aaron who let me in, the one who didn't have all the answers. The one who stayed up late just to lie next to me, breathing in sync. "You know," he continued, "the rules about mentorship are more like guidelines. Nobody's going to come after us. But that's not what's been holding me back." I sat up straighter. "What is?" He looked down, then back at me, eyes steady. "I haven't let myself care about anyone in a long time. Not like this. And it scares me that I do." I swallowed hard. "It scares me too." We sat in silence for a moment, then I reached over and took his hand. "Let's be scared together," I said. He didn't say anything right away, but his fingers tightened around mine. After that, we stopped pretending. We still met at the café sometimes, but now it was a date. He stopped calling me mentee as a joke. We started calling each other before bed. I learned the way he said my name when he was half asleep, barely above a whisper. He came to my poetry reading, sat in the back row, and smiled the whole time like he was proud. I think that was when I knew it was real. Not a mentorship, not an arrangement, not some blurry in-between. Just us. The semester ended, and Aaron helped me move out of my dorm. We didn't have some dramatic moment. No big declarations. Just a kiss by the back of his car, arms wrapped around each other, quiet and certain. "I still want to see you," he said. "Even without the school program." I smiled. I wasn't going to wait for another email assignment. He laughed, kissed my cheek, and pulled me closer. So no, he wasn't what I expected. He wasn't a clipboard, a checklist, or a pre-planned university resource. He was sharp and complicated and guarded. He was the first person who saw me, not just as a student or some freshman trying to fit in, but as someone worth leaning into, worth being scared for. And somewhere between our first awkward cafe meetup and that final night in his apartment, I realized he wasn't what I signed up for, but he was exactly what I needed.